Hello and welcome to another episode of Miller's Musings. And before I do start this week's Miller's Musings, I want to encourage everyone, if this is the first time you've seen it or whatever, to go check out the playlist. You can go through the playlist. I think we're up to 9 episodes now, may even be 10. I get that wrong every week. But a lot of people say they actually find it helpful to watch them all in one big block. So please go and do that. That would be awesome. And then also, once more, as I said at the beginning of everyone, it's probably become a thing. I want to thank everyone for all their kind words about this. I received an especially nice message today through my patron of all things from somebody who said how much this was helping them, and that meant the world to me. So thank you very much to that person and all the people that say such nice things. Now, we are going to touch on a bit of old ground that maybe we've done in the other episodes. We're going to try and focus it and hone in on it a bit more because, again, the theme of this week seems to have been worry. And how worry, and this kind of ties into anxiety as well, but more like specific worry and how that can absolutely take over your mindset and basically become who you are. Somebody I know recently, we'll create a little story here, but it is based on what someone told me. You wake up in the morning and you're feeling all right, then an event happened, the event triggered the worry, and that was it. That's all their life was. Didn't matter about relationships, partners, anything else. It was all about this one kind of worry. And ultimately, they couldn't control the outcome to this situation. They were involved in it, and they were a pivotal part of it. But ultimately, it was in the hands of life. It was in the hands of fate or whatever. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot to all of us where, a unexpected event can shift across from nowhere, and it takes you for granted, it shocks you. Then all of a sudden, that sort of plateau not the plateau, but the foundation that you've been, working on gets knocked massively, and it just floors you. And like I say, everything else then becomes obsolete almost. It doesn't even matter because the only thing you can think about is this one event that's coming. How am I going to fix this? What will the ramifications be? What if this happens? What if that happens? Now, this ain't the most helpful thing in the world. It's certainly a technique that you have to practice, and it's something that every time it happens, you have to kind of zen out a bit. But if you cannot control something and it's creating a negative impact on your life, then worrying about it is simply making it worse. Now, I know you probably know that. I know this is no big revelation. You're not all of a sudden be like, oh, Simon, you have saved my life. But I think maybe sometimes somebody else saying it can be helpful. And that's why I'm saying it right now. And I really do think it's true because if you can't control something, I think it's really important for us all as a species to start getting to a place where we kind of not let things go, because I'm sure if it's worrying you, then it must be important to some kind of degree. But if you can't control over it, and that specific incident is going to happen regardless of your influence, then why are you worrying? Why are you? I know it's really hard to control, but that's the point. We control our emotions. And I think, for all the time that we spend doing whatever else we spend our time doing, we don't take enough time to spend on ourselves and focusing on ourselves and figuring out, right, how do I control this? When that worry hits you and you get that feeling in your gut and you're like, oh, and your blood pressure shoots up and your anxiety and your adrenaline, what I think, and I include myself in this, what I think a lot of us do is we let that overtake us, we let that overcome, and we let that become everything. But we're allowing ourselves to do that. That's on us. We control our emotions. We are our brain and all of that. And I think every now and then, if you can just take stock, literally take stock, go sit on a sofa, a chair, lay down, and just think about that one thing and process, as opposed to just react like shit, what am I going to do, what am I doing, firing all these neurons in your brain. Literally take a moment and sit and lay or whatever, have a drink, and say to yourself, why do I feel this way? What can I do about this? And ultimately, what is the worst case scenario? Because usually the worst case scenario in your head, or at least the way you're reacting, is not actually the worst case scenario. So let's say something happens at your job, you think, oh, I'm going to get fired. Realistically, I mean, maybe you will, but my point is, most 9 times out of 10, if you talk with a friend or, you do take stock of that, your brain's eventually going to go, well, I'm going to get fired. That would be madness. That doesn't even make any sense. However, because we've already leapt from 0 to 10, it's really hard to then rein that back in or find that balance, and that's it. You're done. And it's going to ruin minutes, hours, days. And even though the worry that you've introduced to this situation, or at least the worry that's been introduced to you, is actually making all of that worse. And wouldn't it be great if we could just not only accept life for what it is, but live in the moment? I think that's the key for this one, is about living in the moment. I read all these self-help books. There's one called The Power of Now. And it's true, because this moment right now is all that matters. And it's all that exists. Like, aliens could come down in 30 seconds and blow everything up. And you'd be like, why did I spend all that time, worrying and everything like that? And I do think it's a skill. I think it's the same as, learning an instrument or riding a bike or, maths, whatever. I think it's something you have to practice. And every now and then, or meditation's good for it obviously as well, but every now and then you will have these, it will start off small, but then hopefully grow when you realize, okay, so I reacted to that maybe badly or in a negative way, but this is what matters. I even looked around to, to highlight the point. This is all that matters because this is all that exists. And that's why the past is important, because you've got to learn from it, because that's happened. And that's history. That's also why you shouldn't let it ruin your future, because you can't do anything about it. We've all woken up and gone, please, please, Groundhog Day, let me relive that again. But you can't. And that's why the past is important for you to learn from it, but not to let it control your present. And that's why ultimately the future doesn't matter. And you should have goals and all that kind of stuff, of course. But it doesn't matter because it's not real. There is no such thing as the future. There's a man-made word that we came up for a passage of time that is yet to be. But, I mean, time, we're getting well into it now, but time is man-made. We made up time. Right now it's, 2 o'clock. But this not real. And that's my point. So I think sometimes it is almost good to forget about the modern world that you find yourself in and just remember that we are, specks of dust on a rock flying through space towards the sun, which is, that's the deal. And that in itself could freak you out. But that is something I think maybe over the next week, before we do another one, just try and take stock of that whenever you can. Just sit there, take a moment, take a deep breath, as everyone says you should do, and realize that that's it. That is everything. And you're learning and you're growing and you're evolving through each of these moments. But if you've got something on next Thursday that you think, that could be a bad day, just put it in your brain, because you need to know, you've got to be there or whatever. You've got to do that thing next Thursday. But it doesn't matter, because today is Monday. And that sounds ridiculous, right? Like, Simon, you sound like this is the most simplistic thing in the world. But we don't take stock of it. Or at least I don't think people do. And we don't mentally, we don't mentally live in the moment. Mentally, we're always 3 steps ahead, because that's what we're like as human beings, which is why it's something you really need to work at it. And it's something I've been doing recently as well. And I had this wonderful moment the other day, and this is getting all hippie trippy, but I did when I was worrying about certain things. And all of a sudden, because I've been practicing, my brain went, don't worry about it. Just worry about this. I was in bed at the time, about to go to sleep, and it was a wonderful feeling of just pure, you're right. And all my worries went away. And obviously I woke up the next day and they were back and I had to work on it again. But still, that was probably 10 minutes before I fell asleep. That 10 minutes was wonderful. Genuinely wonderful, where I was at complete peace. And when you're at complete peace, you realize that is what matters. I don't want to say that's the meaning of life, because that's getting way too over there, but I definitely think it's top 10. And it's incredible how if you do just allow life to take you on whatever journey it's going to take you on, and you just put, you just put your faith in that almost, and you think, okay, well, and even if the worst does happen, then you'll deal with it, because you also dealt with the preamble before it too. And I think that's a really powerful, and I think it's a really important tool. Again, I'm not probably telling you nothing that you don't already know, but as I'm finding with this video series, is that sometimes someone just saying it and looking into a camera, almost like it's coming directly at you, actually triggers someone's brain to go, maybe I should be more like that. Like I say, it's something I've been doing a lot all this year, really, and it's helped. It has helped no end, and it kind of puts you in a position where you are, when you do get ahead of yourself, you think, okay, if that's going to happen, that's going to happen, and I know I can deal with it, because tapping into my past, look at all the things that I've dealt with so far, and I'm still here. I'm doing all right, ups and downs, all that lols. But ultimately, I said ultimately a lot this video, #ultimately, I'm still going, and if this big event does happen, it turns out I'm right, well, I'll learn from that too, because otherwise you may as well keel over and die. I mean, that's true, right? If you're not going to not bother, but if you feel like you can't, you see what I'm saying though. You when these things come up, you do deal with them, and you deal with them because you've dealt with them before, and now you're going to deal with them again. Doesn't mean it's easy at all. Nothing is easy. I think it's like everything. Again, if we take learning an instrument as an example, that's really hard, right, to learn. It's really difficult. Sometimes it winds you up, and that's the kind of passion and focus you need to put into yourself, which means sometimes you're going to be trying, like, I can't do this, but that's when you've got to take a moment and go, yes, I can. Believe in yourself and have confidence and all of that. But that's why I don't think you should worry, or how not to worry. Worry is something that is obviously in us for a reason, so it's important, but making sure you control that worry and maybe trying to use it in a productive way so it doesn't overcome your life, right? That's the worst thing when, 9 till, say, 10 or whatever, when you wake up to go to bed, all you're doing is worrying. And you can't, if through that worry, you come up with something productive to do to help it, then that's great. But I think with most of these things, that's not the case at all. And it's just us leaping into worst case scenario territory, which we all do, because it's very easy to be pessimistic. And it just makes it worse. So if you are worrying about something in your life, maybe spend the rest of the day just assessing it and processing it in a good way, as opposed to, but what about this? What about this? What about this? What if you over worried about it and there was no need to worry to begin with? Doesn't matter if you go that way and then turn out, oh, I was right, I should have gone the other way, because at least in those few days before it happened, again, you were more at peace with yourself. And as we're finding with all these videos, peace is bloody well everything. Let's face it. Right. Thank you again to everyone who listens to me rant and rave once a week, either on a Sunday or a Monday. Leave a comment below if you've got anything to say. Get in touch on Twitter at SimonMiller316. Subscribe to the channel if you want. And if you think these videos are good, please do share them, because that's what they're there for. Again, like I've said before, I just wanted to give a little something back, and I understand that it's little, but hey, it's something, I guess. But take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week.